Hello, welcome. I'm glad there's a couple of people here to listen to me talk. My name is Adela Falk. I come from the United States of America, and I represent an organization called POW420, and that stands for Prisoners of War. Our prisoners of weed because President Nixon declared the war on drugs. And like with all wars, we have inmates. We have prisoners, and ours happen to be inmates that are sitting in our prison system. I heard a speaker yesterday say that in New South Wales there was 26,000 people that were arrested for cannabis last year. 26,000 people. Wow, that's a lot of people's lives that have been impacted. How many of y'all in here have ever been arrested for cannabis? Well, that's a pretty good percentage of people that are, this is a small room and there's still people incarcerated for cannabis. Every 36 seconds, someone in the United States of America is arrested for pot. Every 9 minutes, someone in Canada is arrested for pot. So this is a global issue. There's people that are sentenced to death. What I say by death is life without the possibility of parole. These people will never see a parole board and they'll die in prison. Some people have never been busted with a weed or seed, even a plant. They just have a confidential informant said this person may have sold them pot. And in our court of law, especially in a federal court of law, we have absolutely no defense. Cannabis is a Schedule I on the Controlled Substance Act. That means it's highly addictive and has no medicinal value. Despite the fact that the government of the United States of America has a compassionate use program and currently issues to 2 individuals 301-gram joints that is grown in the University of Mississippi by Dr. Elsie Muhammad. So on one token, they're cultivating and distributing a controlled substance to medicinal cannabis patients, and the rest of us are criminals, federally disobedient felons. 1 in 3 Americans are felons. That means in most states they can't vote. They get no public housing assistance, no food assistance, no education assistance. They can't vote. They can't sit on jury duty. They have absolutely no voice. So I'm here today just trying to represent our brothers and our sisters and our neighbors and our friends and our children. I say children because we have children in the United States of America that are in prison for pot. They're part of a sting operation. They put law enforcement in our schools and act as undercover agents and sell and purchase marijuana from children. And then we arrest them and we incarcerate them. We have a name for this. We call it a pipeline to prison. So we start them off at a very young age. They're felons. And they can't get a decent job because most people in the United States of America won't hire a felon. So I'm talking about the United States and I'm talking about Canada. South Africa, 2,000 people a day are arrested for cannabis. The reason I talk about it is because the global policies that we enacted in the United States of America trickle down throughout the rest of the world. And I'm fearful, after watching these saliva tests that are happening, I'm fearful that we're not going to do anything about it. That we're out here having a wonderful time and we're celebrating while there's people that are being searched for a plant. Like the fact that she said that as a woman, wow, that was just pretty insane what she said. Having a man tell you to open your mouth while they stick something in it so they can take a saliva test. They're stealing your fluid from your body and we're okay with it? I mean, how many of y'all drove by and watched that happening today? How many people were in a car that got pulled over while their driver had a saliva test? Did anybody record it? Because I'm going to tell you, we don't see that in the United States of America. If you showed that to us, I guarantee you there would be the news media all over the place. This would never happen in the United States of America. But we put people in jail for prison for life, but we'll never let them take our saliva. They could take your blood. Once they get a warrant with just and probable cause. But my point is, if we allow one injustice to happen without stopping, recording it, throwing a fit, part of everything that we've been doing today in the celebration of MardiGrass, we should have been out there protesting that, telling the law enforcement that we won't tolerate this injustice, that we will no longer stand for human violations because you chose to use a plant. I respect the last speaker and talking about, well, tax and regulate. I can stand behind that. Until you get the bill at a dispensary and how much you got taxed. So you pay $25 for a gram of pot, but you pay $20 in taxes, $45 for a gram of pot, all because we were so worried about our own safe access. This is bureaucracy, and it's bureaucracy at its finest. We're going to allow regulations because we want safe access to cannabis. Look, businesses are going to be regulated. Grows are going to be regulated. Dispensaries are going to be regulated. There is no reason to ask for what you grow in your backyard and what you put in your own body to be regulated. I should be able to have as many cannabis plants as I want growing in my backyard. I should be able to travel freely down the streets with as much cannabis as I personally need. Look, law enforcement is not your doctor. You know, you shouldn't have to convince somebody who is trained as a law enforcement officer why you need cannabis. This is your ailment. This is private between you and your physician. It has nothing to do with law enforcement, but yet we allow them to take your saliva, to take your blood, to arrest you, to pat you down. We tolerate it. We're scared. We think we're complying with the law. Never consent to a search. Never talk. Never admit anything. The law enforcement does not have your best interest at mind. At the end of the day, they have a job. The judge, the attorney, the jurors, everybody in a courtroom except for the defendant is paid. They're paid by the same governing body. If we want safe access, which is kind of oxymoronic, we have to fight for it. We have to stand up for our individual rights, our individual liberties. See, cannabis is considered medical marijuana. And we're using it as a medicinal defense, which works, but it's a biological necessity. Within the last 20 years, we've discovered an endogenous endocannabinoid system. That means inside of our body, we have receptors that light up when we use cannabis. That's a biological necessity. But we're willing to be taxed and regulated? Would we tolerate taxed and regulated tomato plants? Are we okay with sweet potatoes being taxed and regulated? I just feel like as a community, we need to stand up with one another. Has anybody ever heard of Dr. Pot right here? There's a big poster. Anybody get an opportunity to check out the wonderful posters all around? Well, he's in prison for pot. He's got a court date coming up. Tony Bowers in prison for pot. All these people here in Australia are in prison for pot. We should be celebrating these people. We should be talking about the injustices that are happening within your community. We keep talking about the black market and we say things in a negative way, but without that black market, a lot of people wouldn't have access to cannabis. Without that one person that was willing to break the law, to go out and bring that cannabis back, we wouldn't have safe access. We're breaking a bad law. We're breaking unjust laws. Nobody's a criminal. The law is bad. So not too often y'all have jury here. This guy's going up for a jury trial. Anybody here sit on jury duty? Wow, we're never going to change the law if we don't enact the law. See, the buck stops with us, right? You can vote not guilty. If you keep voting not guilty and we keep fighting the system, and we can't find a jury that's going to incarcerate somebody for a plant, they lose, we win. So it's our responsibility to stand up for each other, for our neighbors and for our friends. It's our ability and our duty to talk to people about unjust laws. How many people's here family is okay with their cannabis use? Is this a struggle that we go through on a daily basis, talking to your grandma, your father, your children? I think hemp should be taught in school. I think we should normalize the plant. Industrial hemp is federally illegal in my country. We can't even grow hemp, let alone use cannabis. So I'm federally disobedient every single day in my country. And at any given time, The DEA can team up with my local law enforcement. Even if I'm complying with the law, it doesn't mean I'm not breaking it. At any given time, I could be raided. I can have AR-15s shoved in my face by local law enforcement. I can have flash grenades thrown into my child's bedroom and their face is exploded. This is a true story. And I'm the victim. I'm the criminal and they're the victim. That's who the victim is in these cases. It's the state. The state says somehow I hurt them by growing cannabis and using it for my personal use. I'm a criminal because I grew cannabis and I gave it to my family members or my neighbors or a loved one that finds it beneficial for them. I'm just scared because I can see where this could lead astray and this could lead to very, very bad things. The privatization of prisons is absolutely horrendous in the United States of America. Canada just got a private prison. Do y'all have privatized prisons out here in Australia? So it's literally a hotel. The more people they have inside the beds, the more money they make. We pay our inmates 9 cents an hour, and if they have a high school diploma, we pay them 14 cents an hour to answer phones for places like McDonald's, Victoria's Secret. We pay them 14 cents an hour to grow potatoes for a private company that then profits off of it. 75% of our prisons are full of nonviolent drug offenders. A third of them are cannabis-only offenders. Like I said, every 36 seconds, someone in America is arrested for pot. 36 seconds. Children are took, thrown in foster care, and never seen from again. There's just so many injustices that we hear, but we don't really take it personally. And it's really our responsibility to talk about these stories, to share it with people so that people understand the tyranny of it, right? Because it's not just about using medicine or getting high. Okay, look, there is no legal state in America, despite what they say about Colorado or California. It's regulated, and regulations can be broken. People between the ages of 18 and 20 in California aren't protected by Prop 64. So you're gonna see felons between the ages of 18 and 20 before they could comply with the law. So it takes 3 misdemeanors to become a felon. You can still get a misdemeanor over the age of 21 if you have over a certain amount, if you grow over so many plants. So they build a box, a 24-foot by 24-foot square box, and they say, grow your 6 plants in that box. You know how big a 24 by 24 square foot proper little square is? Do you know how much that costs to build? So what if I'm too poor and I can't afford to go and spend $100 to a doctor, $100 to the state to get all the required paperwork I need, and then build this square foot enclosure? Now let's just top it all off and say I'm in a wheelchair. How am I gonna get into this thing with flood and drain tables? Wait, I got a door? Like, if I put my nutrients or my soil or something outside of this 24 square foot perimeter, and the cops come knock at my door and they do what it calls a knock and talk or a compliance check, and they see my equipment, because equipment is paraphernalia, right? A lighter is paraphernalia. Papers are paraphernalia. Paraphernalia is illegal. Now I'm out of compliance and I can go to jail for it. All paraphernalia in the United States of America is illegal. Bongs, pipes. I can't say a bong. If I go into a head shop, I can't say bong. I have to say water pipe. Bong is for marijuana use. All the paraphernalia we sell is for tobacco use. And I can go to jail for it. That's what happened to Tommy Chong. Y'all know who Tommy Chong is? When he got raided and he got arrested, it wasn't for cannabis, it was for paraphernalia. For marijuana use is what he was selling it for, but that's illegal. We have regulations for that. That's the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. So we have a Second Amendment in the United States of America, so we have the right to bear arms. But if I happen to have a gun and I'm growing pot, now I have a fire weapon arm charge while I was committing a crime. So a lot of people like to use concentrated cannabis, which is hash, or whatever it is you want to call it. If I make concentrated cannabis in the United States of America, that's manufacturing of a controlled substance. It's like operating a meth lab. Even if you just use water and bubble bags. As long as you're using a solvent, which could be water, it's manufacturing of a controlled substance. Wow. To me, there's just so many things that we don't take into consideration when we pass bad laws, when we vote for bad officials. We need to make sure that the person that we put into office represents us. Your last speaker was just saying Parliament doesn't represent the people. Then why do we keep voting for bad people? You know how easy it is to call a person running for office and say, what's your stance on these issues? Ask for it in writing. And when they get into office, hold them responsible for the grounds on which they ran on. Every president in the United States of America says they're going to legalize pot. All they have to do is remove it from the Controlled Substance Act. That's it. That's it. It's all they have to do. Now it's out of the Controlled Substance Act, and I could grow it in my backyard without fear of being arrested. It's so simple. And anybody know why it hasn't happened? Well, when we got a bureaucracy, it's all about money, yeah. The DEA, our Drug Enforcement Agency, is 100% funded by asset forfeiture. So that means if I'm raided by the federal government, even if I'm found not guilty, everything they took from me, they keep. My house. Oh, if I happen to drive to my parents' house, because conspiracy theories start from the beginning to the end. So within 3 months, if I drove while they were watching me and I drove to my parents' house, guess who else's house is being took? My parents, my grandparents, my aunts. Anybody's house that I may have had or went to their house that the law enforcement thinks, gone. All of my banks will be seized, my bank accounts, everything that I have will be gone. And there's no remedy to get anything back. It's all gone. So we have dry cases and ghost cases in the United States of America, and those are people that are incarcerated for no crime. They've been never busted with anything. And it's just really unjust. And it doesn't matter how much it is. We got a guy that got sentenced to 22 years for 2 joints. So it's not about how much it is. It's about unjust laws. And go to court support, create some little green ribbons, even if you can't get into court. If you know somebody has court dates on here, show up outside the courthouse with some green ribbons. Every person walking in and out of there is going to know that the community supports these people, and we're not going to tolerate it. Call your news people, put press releases out, get a good spokesperson up there to talk about this person's case. Be their voice, be the community that we need. Be safe when you all leave here. Don't travel with cannabis. Leave it at home. If you have a vape pen, put it in the trunk. Don't consent to any searches. If you happen to get in trouble, reach out to the hemp embassy. You have a community, you have resources, and we need to utilize them, and we need to know that we're all together, that if something happens, that everybody has our back. And that's really, truly the way in cannabis prohibition. And hemp stands for Helping End Marijuana Prohibition, and every single person in here can do that. So at the end of the day, pick up a paper and a pen and write to your local legislatures or your local government. Pick up a phone and call and take action. And just call every day and let them know you're not going to tolerate cannabis prohibition and that you're not afraid or ashamed of a plant. And I just really appreciate being here, and I'm really enjoying it. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Adela. And yeah, thank you for talking to us.